Okay, so you're ready to expose your emulsion coated screen to transparency in order to burn your image onto it. And so remember, we've scoop coated our screen carefully, nice thin layer. We've put it in the darkroom and let it dry so that it's now dried at a touch. And so now what you want to do is you want to go ahead and set up this exposure unit here so that we can expose the transparency. And so remember, you can use any kind of transparency you want. It could be one of these that's like a hand-drawn transparency that you spent some time kind of drawing with Sharpie marker and other materials. And you always want to put your transparency down face up, so the direction you want it to look when you're looking at the actual piece is not reversed. And so you can put this on there, and then we could put our screen. In this case, I'm going to shoot a couple of transparencies that we made that are multicolor. So these ones here that have this kind of sad sack-looking guy's face on them, right? And so we're going to put those on. And one of the things I thought I'd show you is how to kind of maximize your screen space, because one of the things that you don't like, most of us don't like doing, is having to burn a screen and then print it and then wash it out and clean it and then recoat it and then burn another for the next layer. So sometimes you can double dip and get 2 layers out of it. And so after you've cleaned the exposure unit bed here really well, you want to go ahead and just put your screens down. What I like to do is I like to take, if I have 2 images like this that'll fit on one screen, I like to just kind of put them like this, kind of back to back, facing in different directions, and make sure they're face up again. So you want to double check that to make sure you don't have one backwards. So kind of put them back to back like this, so that you can flip the screen one direction and flip it the other when we go to print. And I'll show you how we do that when I do the printing demo. So if we have these on there, you just kind of want to center them in the middle of the glass, and you take your screen. So you take this, and you'll all have there's different kinds of screens. Some of them are aluminum, some of them are wood. Sometimes they have yellow mesh, sometimes they have white mesh. It doesn't really matter. The whole point is that it's a screen that we photo coated. And so we just want to go ahead and place that in there. You want to make sure that your images are, pretty centered. So you don't want to have your images be real, you don't want to have image you're trying to print be too close to the bottom or too close to the sides, because it's a real pain in the butt to try to get those images to print. So you want to kind of center it in here and make sure we can close the lid easily on it. And then we'll get our piece of foam out here. So this is the thing that creates compression. And so what we want to make sure we do is we want to make sure that we have our glass, the transparency with the black opaque marks on it, the emulsion coated screen, and then some sort of a compression device that squishes all of that sandwich down so that it's really tight. If you have your emulsion screen here and then your transparency here, and there's a lot of space between them, the light's going to sort of shoot in around those dots, and it's actually going to not expose correctly. So you want a really good tight contact on it. So we have this homemade unit. This cost maybe $100 to build out of just 2x4s and old lumber, and then I put in 3 500-watt shop lights that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. So you could actually build something like this, on your own if you wanted to. And so what happens now is it's very heavy, so you kind of got to be careful and put your back into it. But you got to kind of lower this down. And then what we've got is we've got compression on it, so you kind of just have to lean on it, hook this hook on there, and then you can pull it down, and that'll create the compression. So now we have this really nice, tight fit. If you have a smaller image or a smaller screen, you can use this smaller piece of foam, but the bigger one is designed to fit the screens that we have in here. So now that's all sandwiched in there nice and tight. It's all set and ready for us. So now all we have to do is hit it with lights. So those shop lights, those 500-watt shop lights, blast light up at our emulsion coated screen. And if we didn't have any transparency in there at all, and we just shot the light up at it, it would harden up and it would become a completely waterproof screen, right? We wouldn't have any holes in the stencil at all. It would stay very much, it would just be, impervious to water or ink or anything else. But what we want to do is we want to, we have our little black opaque dots in there, so now we're just going to shoot around those and harden up everything around the dots. So again, super high tech here, but if you just get out your phone or whatever it is you have, you can watch the clock if you want to. Mine has this fancy stopwatch thing on it, so I'm going to use that with an alarm and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and go with a timer for 3 minutes. And what you want to do is you want to make sure both of our light switches are on. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. I'm going to flip the lights on. I'm going to hit start. That's going to count down for me to 3 minutes. So we're basically exposing our transparency to light for 3 minutes. So the timing can change a little bit depending on how thick your emulsion is or how delicate your transparencies are. But 3 minutes is a very good standard kind of exposure time in this shop. So, and we'll have the exposure times posted on the unit too for you, because they might change over time as we get this a little bit more refined. But so just set your timer, let it cook, as they say, and wait until it dings and we can pull it. All right, my timer is done. My screen is cooked. We're gonna pull it out of the light unit here, and we're gonna see what we got. So, go ahead and make sure you turn off the light switches. Both of them need to be on to expose, and both of them need to be off to pull this out. Then you just want to unhook our compression clamps here, and then lift this thing up. And there's a stool if you need to get a little bit more height up here. And then we have this little arm thing here that kind of locks it up into place so that it doesn't fall on your head as you're working. So we'll take our compression pillow out of here and put it back up where it goes. And then when I pull this out now, with any luck, I've got an image that's been burned onto this screen. So we'll take it over to the sink now, and we'll wash it out and see what we have. Okay, so this screen has been burned now. It's been exposed. So now I'm ready to use our fancy dancy washout move here to clean my screen. And so there should be all the little dots in my transparency should have blocked the light, so that those spots should now be really soft and water soluble yet, and everything else, all this junk all around here, should be really waterproof. So when I hit it with the water, it should just run right off of this and expose and sort of dissolve the little holes where the dots and lines were, and that stuff should open up in the stencil. So to use our exposure washout booth here, you got to kind of do a couple of things. First thing is that we keep this little plexiglass cover on it, just to make sure that we're keeping all of the spray and everything inside this thing. You got to imagine this is like a nice little shower or something. And then there's a couple of really complicated things that you have to do with the hose, and if we don't do these correctly, it will ruin our power washer, and then we're all going to be in deep trouble for the quarter. So you have to make sure that you follow these directions really, really carefully. So I'm going to turn the camera a little bit here so you can see. So the first thing is we want to make sure our water is on. We want to have both hot and cold on, right? Then we want to go ahead and turn off this main sort of spigot. And when these little sort of valves are up like this, that means that it's blocked and there's no water coming through either one of these. So if I turn this one, the water comes out, right? So I want to make sure I turn this one so that this hose that comes out and around here is now full of water. We want to make sure that we have lots and lots of water running into our power washer, which is around the edge over here, right? So you can see our power washer, this green thing right here. And this has a compressor in it, and what the compressor does is it forces the water out with a high velocity, a lot of sort of pressure. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that there's water coming out of here. So you just want to take this and just do that. And then if you want to turn the power washer on to give you a little bit more power, you can just make sure that the black button is pushed down. So that's the black button. Now when I hit it, see it's coming out there with a lot of pressure, but you have to decide if you want to you don't necessarily have to have that compressor on in order for this to work. So then we just slip our screen inside here. There's a nice little kind of holder thing that'll hold it up off of the out of the sink so that it doesn't get all nasty and everything. And then we're just going to try and hit this thing real slowly with a small amount of water. So I'm going to start off with the power washer off, and I'm not going to put the lid back on this at this point. Just we'll wait a second on that. So just gonna. So I like to wet down the front of the screen and just kind of get one side wet, and then I'll flip it over. And we'll work on the back side of it now, and we'll just real slowly expose. So you just want to really slowly sort of hit it with the water and let it kind of dissolve away the emulsion in the places it needs to be dissolved away. So I'll turn it back on here when the camera back on when I have a little bit more of that. I've been working on this just a little bit at a time and slowly developing it. You can kind of see the sad sack guy's head sort of starting to develop here. You can see it's turning a little bit more kind of yellow and the screen is starting to pop loose. So about the time I get it there, I like to put my protective sort of you know, the shield back on here, and then I turn on the compressor and I just kind of hit it pretty hard with the pressure washer, but I try and keep the power wand back here. I don't push it up really close. I'm just trying to keep it back here and hit it with a good amount of water. So. And so when you hear the pressure washer make that sort of high-pitched sound, that means it needs a little bit of time to catch up, so we need to make sure that we get some water running back into the pressure washer. So take a break for a second. And sometimes when it does that, I like to take this off. Then I just flip the screen around again. And as you look, if you can kind of see this, we're getting the stencil opened up, so you can see sort of a little bit of the the lines are developed here. And what I like to do is just kind of hold it up to the light, and any place where I can see light coming through the stencil, I know that I have it developed. And any place where there's still like a little dot blocking it, okay, I know that that's still not going to let ink through when I go to print it, but I'm really close now, so I'm just going to kind of hit this just a little bit more real quickly, and then we should be done and ready to print it. I'm holding the power wand when I'm doing the washout, and I'm not pushing it up there really close to the screen because that might blow out more than I want it to. I'm trying just to hold the power wand down. Okay, so I think I'm done now. I'm just going to go ahead and take this thing off and check it. Don't you like the mist that comes out of there? It's like our misty northwest sort of landscape right here in the building. Someday it'd be nice to get a proper washout booth, but what can you do? So I'm going to hold it up to the light now. I'm going to check this over. Oh yeah, everything looks good. Looks like all of my clear areas are really clear. You want to look at your flats and make sure they're nice and open if you have big flat open areas. So this thing looks good. It looks like it's ready to print. So now what I want to do is I just want to kind of leave this thing in there maybe a little bit like this to dry, or I can go put it in one of the racks to dry. But you want to watch out for the floor. We want to mop that up a little bit so that it's not too slippery over here. And then we want to make sure we hang this back up where it goes. So always make sure that you're paying attention to cleaning up after yourself. Turn off the power on the power washer, right? Make sure we don't leave that on. We want to just make sure that it's not still active, so make sure that the power is off. It's not, the compressor isn't still on. Then we'll want to come back over here to our sink and try and reverse our process that we just did. So I want to make sure that I turn this off. So I want to make sure I close that valve. I want to make sure I turn that one back on, right? So that my sink works now, and then I'm going to turn off both hot and cold water. And then this has a little bit of pressure left in it. The power wand will have a little bit of pressure that's left inside of it, and you can just kind of, let that go for a little while until it's a little bit more cleared out. But please, please, please remember that if you ever start the power washer without water, going into it. So without flipping these around so that we have water going through our green hose there, it's gonna burn up the motor in that power washer and it will ruin the power washer and nobody else will be able to use it. So then we'll be stuck here trying to do this with like a hose or something like that. So if you ever start that thing up and it's acting weird, like it makes funny sounds and it smells like it's burning, stop, think about what you're doing, check the water to make sure that it's going on. And please don't burn out the power washer.